Welcome to the American Valor Podcast. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Jason Vanderhaden to the show. Jason served as our nation's 13th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, and MCPOG as an honorary Coast Guard shipmate for life. It is my honor to have you with us today, and we welcome you to the show. And before we get into all of the questions around the four pillars, take a little moment to share us a little bit about you and what you're up to now.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's an honor to be a part of the Active Valor Foundation. I served as the 13th Master Chief Petty Officer Coast Guard from 2018 to 2022. And before that, I was, the Deputy Commandant for Mission Support, Command Master Chief, did all the man, train, and equip for the Coast Guard. And then before that, I was the Pacific Area Command Master Chief, and did a few things. I came up in the Coast Guard as a culinary specialist. I was a cook, and then had the opportunity to branch out and do a couple of collateral duty, some law enforcement collateral duty, damage control, did some stuff with helicopters, and then worked at our Coast Guard Chief Petty Officer Academy Leadership School, which is the premier enlisted leadership school for the Coast Guard, and learned a lot there about leadership and about why kind of we do what we do, and got the opportunity to learn from over 1,000 chiefs that came through during my time there. And, I learned more from them than they ever learned from me. So my whole career was a learning experience, and right up until the end. And right now I'm working on the Coast Guard's offshore patrol cutter program working for Eastern Shipbuilding. Really excited. It's a tremendous opportunity to work with pre-commissioning crews for a brand new ship. And then I do some work with Blue Cross Blue Shield, First Command Financial, Veterans United Home Loans. I'm the East Coast Vice President for the Surface Navy Association, and just try to support military men and women and Coast Guard folks wherever I can.
Well, busy as always, right? And I remember you in the days of the Pacific side, because I was a Pacific sailor.
Yes.
And remember you coming up and continuing to rise in the ranks. And it was so good to see you ultimately become the 13th MCPOG of the Coast Guard. And like I mentioned, I served on the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Jarvis as an augmentee, a weather augmentee from the Navy, and I did one of their Pacific deployments, and it was probably one of my best sea service times that I've ever had. And I'm grateful to the Coast Guard forever for that.
It is, having the Navy sailors on the Coast Guard ships is a real treat for us. I modeled our Coast Guard Chiefs mess after some Navy chiefs that were good friends of mine. I was really impressed with how they got the best and the most out of their Chiefs mess, and just having the opportunity to serve jointly. We always loved having our Navy shipwriters. It's just fun to pick their brain about, leadership and why they do what they do, and share ideas. It's just, I'm thankful for that, and glad to call you shipmate. And it's a good opportunity to highlight the importance of joint service and getting to know your counterparts from the other services.
Absolutely. I definitely enjoyed that time. Now, folks, at the Bob Feller Active Valor Foundation, we strive to educate, support, and recognize by instilling the timeless values of service, sacrifice, legacy, and citizenship. And based on the pillars mentioned, MCPOG, I would like to start today's conversation with service. Now, throughout your distinguished career, how did your definition of service evolve? And what advice would you give to those just beginning their journey in uniform or public service?
So service for me, I when I joined the Coast Guard, I was very young, right out of high school. And then I was just looking for the GI Bill at the time. I wanted the GI Bill. is going to get do my 4 years and go to college. And I was tracking along that line for about 3 years. And then I met my wonderful wife, and my whole life changed. So service started for me, how the service was going to work for me to provide me a benefit so that I could, and I was just working to do my job for those first three. I'll be honest, I pretty much just did whatever was asked of me during those first 3 years. And then when you get married, your life changes a little bit. Now you're providing for a family and you feel like, okay, now my work is in service of my family. And you don't, you know, it's hard when you're junior. It's hard to feel like your individual service is contributing to the overall mission of your service because you're junior and you're doing tasks and jobs that are not, you don't feel like, you know, I'm you know, I'm doing, you know, the work of the nation. But I can't remember who said it, but somebody said, you know, you know, even the janitor at NASA, they should feel like they're putting, you know, people into space. Well, I would say that I wish that I had more of a feeling that my service and my small contribution to the Coast Guard at the junior levels actually made a difference. And as I look back, I think, well, yes, it did. And as I advanced through the service, I tried to instill in folks that it doesn't matter what you're doing. Coming to work every day and doing the best you can and trying to do the most you can in your job really does have an impact on contributing to the overall success of the service and to the service to the nation. So then, you know, you move up, you get to, you know, E5, E6, you start to supervise other people. And now you recognize that your leadership is contributing to the retention and the morale of the people that work for you. If you can affect their morale, you can affect whether or not they want to stay with the service. So now your service is a little bit more, you feel like I'm contributing to the service in a more substantial role. And then, you know, you get to E6, E7, and now your opinion counts. People really, you know, officers are coming to you and asking for your help and for your opinion. You feel like you're shaping a little bit of maybe just unit policy or you know, local policy, but you're able to shape that and guide that, and you know, you're definitely feeling like if I'm not successful, this unit's not going to be successful. You still may not feel like you're, you know, with the, you know, making a difference in big Coast Guard or big Army or big Navy, whatever, but you just don't, it's hard to feel that. And so then your service, when you get to E89, if you want to, it can go two ways. It can go, you can make a big difference and you can really make an impact across the service, or nobody's really probably going to say too much to you if you just come in, do your job, make sure your people are doing their job, and then you go home. You have a choice. And you know, when I was, and I know we'll get to this in a little bit later, I'll just foreshadow a little bit, but when I was, you know, coming up senior chief, master chief, I was responsible for entire chiefs messes, and I would be frustrated because I would have a handful of chiefs that would do anything for anybody at any time, and they really felt dedicated to the service and dedicated to their people. And then I had chiefs that I couldn't get them to come to a chief's call. I couldn't get them to do anything more than just what they did in their office. And it was an interesting, so I endeavored to improve that. I endeavored to do to make a change for that. And I said, if I ever get the opportunity, I'm going to try to make a change and make that better.
Yeah, and that's a very key point in leadership for those that are leadership savvy. You do have a huge impact, but the impact that you must have the most is on you, right? You
That's
have
right.
to be able to drag yourself to a function or something that is collaborative in nature, or you're just supporting just for the sake of the fact of the visual of you being there is influential enough, right? And
Yes.
so, yeah, we share the same struggles at time on both the Navy and the Coast Guard, but we all get there right together, and that's a wonderful thing.
Let me build on that just real quick. because you said something that was incredibly important and pretty much foundational to all service is leading yourself. So leading self, leading others, leading change, and then leading at an organizational level. Leading yourself is the foundation. And if you can get that right, everything else will probably take care of itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't have said it and wrapped it up better myself. Now, we all go through sacrifices in one way or another, right? Every time we got deployed on some deployment, there was a sacrifice. Every time we left to go to work on a normal day to day, there was a sacrifice. So, what personal or professional sacrifices stand out most in your memory, and how did those moments shape your leadership and commitment to the mission?
Sacrifice sometimes is looked at as a negative term, but when you feel fulfilled, when you feel like you have given your service to something bigger than yourself, that means you're sacrificing your self promotion, your self, recognition, if you will, to better your service is going to something bigger than you. So the recognition goes to that bigger effort, right? So when you go to sea, you're sacrificing your time with your family, you're sacrificing maybe your hobbies or your personal time, and you're making sacrifices to the mission to get the mission done. You're making sacrifices to serve your nation. You're making sacrifices to serve the American people. Coast Guard leadership, whatever, they're not coming to you personally and going, "Hey, way to go, Jason. I know you sacrificed you missed the whole season, the whole kids' soccer season, and your wife had to, be in three places at once, and she had to, take care of everything and then try to do her thing too." Nobody's coming to you individually to do that. So you have to know that, yes, I am making a sacrifice, but it is going to something greater than myself. And then that's the intrinsic reward that we feel about being a part of something greater than ourselves. And that's what the military does for you. In the civilian community, where you go to work and you are in sales and you are trying to sell things, and your recognition is based off of your individual performance on selling something. Now you work for a bigger company, but you're going to get an award for your sales. You're going to get a vacation or a trip for your sales. You're going to get something for your individual effort. In the military, what we get for our individual effort doesn't get us anything other than a little piece of colored ribbon that we wear on our chest, that really most civilians have no idea what that even means. We're not getting vacations. We're not getting bonuses. We're not getting, not for the sacrifice, and so that's why serving your country and being service, it comes with a sacrifice, but that sacrifice, the reward, the feeling of, I am sacrificing something for the greater good, for the benefit of my country. And I think that's why people in the military are recognized so much, is because you do sacrifice a lot of time. You sacrifice other people's time, your family's time. You sacrifice opportunities. You sacrifice pay. You probably, if you worked as hard in the civilian world as you did in the military, probably make more money. But that can't. None of those can replace the feeling of, I serve my country. I serve the greater good. I serve a purpose higher than myself. And, that's why people join the military. That's why people stay in the military. And I think that we do, as a country, we do a very good job of recognizing the sacrifice of our military members. I was thanked for my service almost everywhere I went. And the appreciation, and I think the American public understand the sacrifice that our military members make to serve the country and to serve the greater good. Individual sacrifices, I mean, my family is extremely important to me. My my wife and my children, I miss them terribly. People would pretend like, oh, I can't wait to go to sea. I can't wait to get underway. I can't wait. I never said that. I always said, I will do it, and I will go to sea and I will do my job. I'll do the best I can, but I wish I didn't have to do it. I wish I could stay home and be with my family. But that's not what we do. And I think that the family sacrifice, probably the biggest one. You know, I had to go to school at night. I had to work a lot of extra hours in the evenings and things like that to get my degree. Just to get a degree is challenging, and when you're underway all the time and you're working all the time. So I would say I probably could have gotten more education. That would have been something that I probably would have pursued had I been a civilian and been ashore. But it's hard to put your finger on a sacrifice when you feel so rewarded for the sacrifices that you gave. So
Yeah, that's profound and also so true because you mentioned awards and you mentioned medals and things like that that we get for our mission accomplishments, but there's a badge of honor that we get to carry as servicemen and women that the most of the world doesn't and can't understand, and that sacrifice to get that was all worth it. When
yes,
you go and you say, it's Veterans Day or it's the Armed Forces Day, and you get to feel the pride that you did that. There's 99% of the world that, or at least America, that won't be able to feel that. They'll just be applauding. And so we're grateful for the opportunity to serve. And regardless of the sacrifices made, I believe all servicemen and women can attest that it was worth it. So thank you for sharing that. Now, legacy is one thing that we seldom think about, but it builds, as we serve and as we do things. This repertoire, right? Resume starts to build up about the things that we did and the people we impacted. So, as the 13th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, what do you hope your legacy reflects, not just in accomplishments, but in the lives and careers of those that you impacted?
I tell you, one of the most important milestone in my career was when I made Chief Petty Officer. People might say, "Yeah, but you were the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard." Yeah, but when I made Chief Petty Officer, that was extremely important to me, and I feel like the senior enlisted of the service, the E789, really set the tone for professionalism, for dedication, for attracting the best and brightest. Basically, there was a saying, and I can't remember who said it, but I heard it from one of my favorite Navy chiefs, and he says, "The chiefs, the officers, the chiefs run the ship so the officers can fight the ship." So the chiefs make sure everything's going smoothly day to day. They take care of the enlisted workforce. They make sure that everything is happening the way it's supposed to happen. Plan of the days executed, all this kind of stuff. The chiefs really set the tone and tenor for the workforce and make sure everything gets done. So the officers can fight and work on policy, strategy, tactic, all that kind of stuff. So the officers can do their job. The chiefs need to do their job. And so I wanted to make the best chief's mess in the Coast Guard that I could. So I started looking at where we needed to improve as a chief's mess in the Coast Guard. And that's what my focus was, trying to get more chiefs to participate, trying to make sure that our chiefs were setting a good example and were role models, making sure our chiefs were dedicated, passionate, sacrifice, enthusiastic. Seldom will somebody bring more energy to the workforce than their supervisor. I mean, if their supervisor isn't motivated, the subordinates probably aren't going to be motivated either. So I tried to instill that sense of pride and professionalism, role models, being somebody that not just the enlisted workforce could look up to, but the officers as well. some chief's mess that the officers would feel very comfortable coming to for advice and counsel. And and so I started pushing. My predecessor, Steve Cantrell, decided what he wanted to do was update our enlisted evaluation system. So that's what he did. I had a role in that, a leadership role in that, along with some other folks. I wasn't the only one. So we started working on updating the evaluation system to drive behavior. So people want to get good evaluations. There's a lot of things that are tied to that. So we updated the language in our evaluation system to drive behavior. In the Coast Guard, you're not going to believe this, but a commanding officer really had only a yes or no for somebody being eligible to promote to chief, senior chief, master chief, or really any pay grade. So there was a test for every advancement up to master chief. And if you did really well on the test and the commanding officer gave you a yes, you could make master chief, and you could be a very mediocre leader. And you didn't see that in the Navy. In the Navy, master chiefs were outstanding. Every service got a few folks, but that aren't great. But by and large, most every master chief that I ever met in the Navy was outstanding, and senior chief too, for that matter. And so we decided that we were going to remove the test for master chief and go with a board panel selection, and commanding officers would have a much stronger role in identifying their best senior leaders and making sure those folks got promoted, advanced, if you will. We call it advanced in the Coast Guard, got advanced to master chief. And so I was very proud of that because I felt like that drove behavior in the senior chiefs. And then if the senior chiefs were motivated, they would motivate the chiefs. It's like, it's one of those things where, if the senior chief's like, well, if I need to be at every chief's call and I've got to come out on the weekends and do stuff, and I have to stay late, and the chiefs are going to as well. And so we just tried to drive behavior so that the chiefs were the hardest working folks in the Coast Guard. And then the E6s would emulate the chiefs, the E5s emulate the E6s, that type of thing. So just driving behavior that made the chief's mess the strongest, best chief's mess we could do. That was what I really wanted to do for their leadership. And I'll tell you, there's no better feeling than knowing that you're doing above and beyond. You're going above and beyond. You're doing the most. Your folks look up to you and they say, that is an outstanding leader. I want to be just like that person. I think that is critical to the success of the entire workforce. So that's what we tried to drive, is just the strongest chief's mess that we could, knowing that would have a ripple effect across the enlisted workforce and be very beneficial to the officers in the wardroom as well.
Absolutely. And I applaud that, because I know that is a platform, that rank structure, those top three are the life and blood. They really drive a lot of the mission success. And if that group is right, yeah, it'll cascade, right? Because everybody will say, well, if I need to do that when I get there, I better start doing that now and get ready for that position. And so good job on all that were part of that mission. And I know that the Coast Guard is thanking all of y'all right now for the effects, the residual effects, as we call it, legacy. But thank you. Now, citizenship is something that all U.S. born and our citizens get to say, right? I'm a citizen of the United States of America, but not all act like citizens, right? They act sometimes combative, and you have all kinds of flavor in the word citizen. But as far as citizenship is concerned, how do you view the role of service members as citizens, and examples within their communities, especially after they hang up the uniform?
Well, just like the brilliant host that you are, you're able to take the first three segments and then apply them to the final segment, which is the total overall person that you are as citizen of the United States. So we started with service, then we went with sacrifice, and then your ability to leave a legacy, and then how that rolls up into citizenship. That's up, Enrique, you're amazing. So when you join your country and you take an oath to serve, you live by the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and you vow you're willing to give your life for your country if needed. I don't think there's a higher form of citizenship than that. And you, that feeling is reinforced not just within the service, but by the United States in general. That feeling of service and thanking folks for their service, you feel like a better citizen because of that. And then you try to role model good citizenship. You volunteer. You as a citizen, we volunteer our time with charitable foundations, with charities, with helping other people, and we try to continue to give back. Once you serve in the military, even if it's 4 years, it changes you forever. You'll never be the same. And so you'll be looking throughout your career, no matter what you do, you'll be looking to give back. You'll be looking to help grow your community and make your community a better, safer place, more enjoyable. Look out for those that need help. As in the service, we are willing to go fight for those who don't want to go fight. And we protect our values as a nation, and we uphold our values. Every service has a set of core values that they live by. Those core values, once they're instilled in you in your first tour, you might. Now, we always have people that go astray, but by and large, most everybody, once they have those core values instilled in them, they carry those core values for the rest of their life, and they become a role model.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see it all the time on this side right now of service. I always say is the veterans that are coming out. They're starting to participate with local community leaders or their local organizations, or they're giving back to the veteran community as they help transition them into and acclimate into civilian life, which is a totally different world by all regards. But I see that continuing to be something that they provide, that service, in a different capacity, but still as a strong citizen, exactly how they went in and exactly how they came out are continuing to influence their communities and build a good rapport between the services and the community. So I'm happy to see that we've all, in one way, shape, or form, have taken that and continue to be great citizens as we are navigating the civilian world now. Now, Mikbog, where can our audience learn more about you, and how can they support you?
You found me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn if you want. Pretty easy to find there. I support the Coast Guard Foundation, so we have a nonprofit where the Coast Guard Foundation takes care of the Coast Guard folks in ways that the appropriated funds can't do. The Coast Guard Auxiliary is a great place if you wanted to serve and learn more about the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard Auxiliary is great. Other than that, I get around, I travel a lot. I try to attend as many events as possible. And if you see me and you want to talk to me, please come up. I love to meet people. I love to meet new people and learn from them and talk to them. So, please feel free to reach out to me through LinkedIn or however you choose to do so. I would love to. I love to connect with as many people as possible and learn about them. Um, and just keep supporting the military, and I'll be right there with you.
Well, absolutely. And we thank you for the many years that you devoted to the Coast Guard. I know they are better for it as well as you, but we are so grateful for what you have done and continue to do now as a civilian. Folks, for more information on the foundation, please visit us at our website, actofvaloraward.org. And on behalf of the Bob Feller Act of Valor Foundation, thank you all for joining us on this episode.